Everyone. Being how it is 2:01, I will call the March 18th meeting of the Development Waiver Review Committee to order. At this point, I would ask everyone in the audience if you have any audible devices, cell phones, pagers, 1886 called once it's pager back. Please turn those off so that our meeting will not be interrupted. My name is Ann Lippman. I'm the Community Development Director, and I'm the chairperson of this committee. Anyone speaking, all questions or comments should be directed directly to me. And at this time, I will ask my fellow members and our legal counsel to turn on their microphones and introduce themselves.
I'm Jason Phillips, I'm the county attorney. Ray Wooten, director of the water system.
George Jones, Director of Transportation.
Bruce Coyle, County Engineer.
Thank you all. Our first item of business today is review of the minutes from the October 15th, 2024 meeting. If everyone has had a chance to review those, and if there are no additions or corrections, I will ask for a motion on this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve of Mr. Jones, which was seconded by Mr. Coyle. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The minutes are approved unanimously. Our first agenda item today is case number 2025-01-SBV, application by Micah Dabbs Brown requesting to encroach into the 25-foot undisturbed stream buffer and 25-foot impervious county buffer setback for the development of a residential home. This property is located in Land Lot 974, District 2, Section 3, located south of Morningside Drive and east of Caffey Lane. The property address is 196 Caffey Lane, and it is located in Post 3. Is the applicant present? Thank you, sir. If you would like to come up to the podium and make your presentation. Oh, yeah. And there is a sign-in sheet for anyone who speaks. Please sign in. And just while he's signing in, I will note that Planning and Zoning has not received any calls with questions or comments on this request.
Quite honestly, I wasn't told I was supposed to give a presentation. Okay, I wasn't told I was supposed to give a presentation.
If you would just give us a brief overview of what you're requesting and what you propose to do on the property.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I just want to finish the home. That's it. I just want to complete it. It's incomplete, the existing structure. And in order to do that, I was informed that I need to first go through a series of steps, the first of which is getting the stream buffer variance in order to do that, because the structure is located in the stream buffer zone.
Okay.
So in order to complete the home, I'm going through a series of steps, the first of which is getting that variance, and then I'm going to proceed with what other steps that I'm recommended. But my ultimate goal is just to finish the home. That's
Okay.
it.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions for the applicant? I'll go ahead and start. I had noticed, and just to make clear, there is an existing structure on the property, and you don't want to build another structure. You simply want to finish
Correct.
the structure on the property.
That's correct.
Do you know when the building was initiated?
Yes, I do. 2016 is when I started.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
So your intention is to pull a full building permit, should this be granted, and expand it to the proper square foot of 1,100 square foot heated area?
That's correct. That was your recommendation initially, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you do acknowledge in the flood zone, pretty serious. Although the finished floor is above the flood zone, some of your footings are in the flood zone, and could be subject to wash away. You probably will not be able to borrow money on the project in so much because of the flooding. You could borrow money, but flood insurance would be probably more than the payments that you'd make on borrowed money. That, I just wanted to make sure you acknowledge, you built in the flood zone. Any addition needs to go away from the flood zone. And you
Yes.
probably would need to armor what footings you got there. And with proper permits, I assume you would remove your temporary septic system.
Yes, that's
those-
correct, and located outside of
And
the.
put a pump in and get a permit.
I'm
I
sorry,
assume
can you
you'd
speak up a
put-
little?
I'd assume you'd have to put a pump in to move your sewage,
Correct.
up the hill to a permitted location. You'd have to take a septic tank permit out. That's in addition. That's part of your building permit, so.
Yes, I understand that.
And I do understand you've offered up mitigation of taking out what the existing greenhouses that are in disrepair and doing some type of buffer restoration planting back at that location.
That's correct. I've already removed that greenhouse, and yes, I will implement the other strategies, mitigation strategies.
Also, prior to issuing that permit, we need a full-blown tertiary erosion control plan. Your engineer surveyor is capable of producing that.
Okay.
And main question, why'd you locate so close to the creek?
Given the existing boundary and my understanding of it, to be honest, when the neighborhood was platted, the plat did not actually match the existing conditions on the site, like I guess it's called public right-of-way of the cul-de-sac, as it's platted, is not actually where the actual cul-de-sac is. It's actually 75 feet off or so. That's actually on the survey that I had done. And so with the existing conditions and the slope, that really was, the only real spot that I felt I could build.
Yeah, 1972 plat.
Right. I was under the impression that the property line was in a different spot than where it actually is, because the cul-de-sac, which was my only reference initially, is different than the plat. So it threw me off initially, and so that's the location where I felt that I could build. Right. So that line you're looking at, that green line, the cul-de-sac is not actually supposed to be where it is. It's supposed to be like further down, but I guess they built it further uphill.
So that front setback toward is that a proposed site plan? Oh, okay. Yeah, and other mitigation you've offered up is building a new structure versus finishing this one up on the hill at that front setback line, but this is well beyond the front setback.
Yeah, I guess it's just because the property is narrow, the shape of it, given the location of the creek and the other property line, it's more narrow than it is wide and square.
Is the structure that you're planning to build, is it something you plan to reside in permanently? Is
No,
it something you plan to rent out?
No, I will own that property till the day I die, I can tell you that. But it's my personal home. It's not meant to be sold.
Okay,
I don't ever intend to sell it or rent it out.
Okay.
I don't live there currently. I live with my wife in Dallas, but it's a second home in case something were to happen to the first. It's a backup.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? George? Right. Okay, thank you, sir. You can take a seat.
Okay.
At this time, this is a public hearing, so I'll ask if there is anyone present in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application. This is in favor. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition or has questions or comments about this case? Oh, nope. Please, if you'd go up to the podium and, as we said
Sign
before,
in.
please sign in and state your name for the record.
My name is Eva Turner. I have property that adjacent to the creek line. And the letter that I originally got was for 50 feet undisturbed stream buffer and 25 feet impervious.
Impervious.
Okay, impervious, sorry. County buffer setback of a development of residential home. And I'm not in favor of him having his property moved back 50 feet.
His property's not going to be moved back. The county has, along streams, there's a 25-foot impervious setback where you can disturb it, but it can't be any pavement or building. Then we also have a 25-foot buffer. He is only asking to get into that buffer and the setback. He's not asking to move his property line. He is just requesting to build a structure on the property he owns, but it would be in that setback and buffer area.
Or is it going to be in the creek or?
No,
Okay.
it would not be in the creek. It's just any streams in Paulding County, you have buffers adjacent to those streams. So he's not trying to move a property line. He is just trying to be able to build in that setback and buffer.
Okay.
So it won't change any property lines. And he has offered some mitigation for the impacts that finishing that structure on the property would have being in the buffer and setback. So no property lines are changing, no streams are changing. It's just to be able to encroach in that setback and buffer.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the audience who has any questions, comments, or questions?
Are we still?
Ma'am, we are,
Talking about 185 Old Griffin Road?
we are not.
Okay, we're talking about that.
That is a separate case that will come up next. Is there anyone else who has any questions, comments about case number 2025-01 SBV? If not, I will close the public hearing and I will ask the committee members if there are any questions, comments, or if anyone would like to make a motion. And if anybody makes a motion and might have any stipulations they'd like to include, please state those.
I just want to offer up some comments. I think he
Bruce.
started the
Bruce.
structure without a,
Microphone.
he started the structure without a permit. The county found out about it when he applied for power. So we went out to look and figured out, we give you power, but first you get a building permit, and he didn't do that. So that's what brought this all about. He would like to get a building permit. He would like to get power to his structure. Then when it was discovered he's right next to the creek in a major flood zone, we were concerned for his safety or whoever he sells it to. So I will make a motion, we approve it with the following stipulations. The owner acknowledges that his construction is in a FEMA mapped flood zone. The owner acknowledge and understand flood insurance for the structure will be very expensive and unavailable and may cause issues when the property is financed or sold or changes ownership. Looking at his submittal, the flood elevation there is about elevation 918.5. His drawings show his house cabin finished floor at 922.34. This is per his engineer. The lowest adjacent grade outside his structure is 917 on the creek side. The owner acknowledges the structure is subject to damages in a flood event and will hold harmless Paulding County. The flood encroachment is about 10 horizontal feet to the flood zone. The footings holding the structure could be compromised during a flood event. Recommend armament and reinforcement on those footings. In my opinion, and this is Bruce Coyle, County Engineer opinion, the flood elevations and floodway will not change with this encroachment. The floodway mapping for this location is about 360 feet wide, with the majority of the floodplain on the opposite side of the creek. The proposed mitigation for the buffer encroachment appears adequate. He's cleaning up some rundown greenhouse, and he's going to plant some type of wetland willow, some type of buffer replacement. And he's exceeding more than what he's disturbing. The structure, to get a proper permit, will need 1,100 square foot minimum heated area. The expansion of any of the footprint for the house needs to be away from the creek. And he will be required to submit a tertiary erosion control sediment plan, and he will, with his permitting, he'll required to take out a proper sewage septic tank permit, and he will immediately remove his tankage system so as they don't float off during a flood event. That's my recommendation, that we approve it with those stipulations.
Okay, by my count, that's 13. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Jason, would it be okay at this point to ask the applicant if he's agreeable to these stipulations?
You can ask, however, if he's not agreeable, it's subject to the 13 stipulations still.
Okay. Mr. Applicant, Mr. Brown, did you hear those stipulations? Does it sound like something, you can come back up. Just want to ask if you are agreeable to them, and we're happy to meet with you later to explain them.
Yes,
But that
I'm
is the
agreeable.
motion that we have on the table in a second.
Yeah, I have my copy here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so you
So
are
the
agreeable?
answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. We do have a motion and a second. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. This motion is approved by a vote of 4-0, approved with 13 stipulations. Our next case today is case number 2025-02-SBV, application by Century Communities, care of Gaskins and LaCroix, requesting to encroach into the 25-foot impervious setback and the 25-foot undisturbed buffer within this LDQRD, low-density quality residential district for the development of a recreational amenity. Property is located in land lots 174 and 175, District 2, Section 3, east side of Old Griffin Road and Mount Tabor Road intersection. The address of the overall property is 185 Old Griffin Road, and it is located in Post 1. Is the applicant present? If you come up to the podium. And as before, all comments should be directed to me. And I'll just go ahead and make an announcement about this case. We are only here today to discuss the 25-foot impervious setback and the 25-foot undisturbed buffer within this project. We will not be discussing zoning or buffers along this project, just for the stream buffer variance.
And I have some packets, but I see that I've got it pulled up here, so if anyone wants the presentation, a hard copy, just let me know and I can bring it over. Okay, awesome. So, good afternoon. My name is Danny Blumenthal with Gaskins LaCroix, 1266 Powder Springs Road in Marietta, Georgia, and I'm here today on behalf of the applicant, who is Century Communities. And this is for the Hawthorne Reserve subdivision. The applicant is seeking a variance for Hawthorne Reserve subdivision from EDO sections 12.5.11 and 12.5.12, which require the preservation of an undisturbed natural vegetative buffer of 50 feet measured horizontally on both banks of the stream, from top of the stream bank an additional 25 feet beyond the undisturbed buffer, within which all impervious cover is prohibited and where grading, filling, and earth-moving activities must be minimized. Century Communities is requesting a 1,113 square foot disturbance within the impervious setback to include a 6-foot mulched path with a 2x4 edger along with a chipped slate patio for seating. Additionally, they're requesting a 569.91 square foot disturbance within the undisturbed buffer for the purpose of clearing and construction of a path and canoe rack. This next slide here just shows an aerial map which outlines the full subdivision. It's on the east side of Mount Tabor Church Road, southwest of East Paulding Drive, with its only access on Old Griffin Road. You may have seen there's the development is well underway here if you've been by, and I'm sure many of the folks out here have noticed that. These requested variances are needed in order to utilize the existing lake as an amenity for future homeowners. So here is the site plan. The image on the left is just the full extent of the site plan we submitted, and then I blew it up a bit on the right there so it's easier to see what we're talking about. But this shows a 6-foot mulched path with a 2x4 edger and chipped slate patio for seating within the impervious buffer, and then the path with the canoe rack in the undisturbed buffer. Everything with a red hatch will also require a state stream buffer variance in addition to the buffer variance from the county. And then we also provided this alternative plan, which also shows disturbance in the impervious buffer, but not in the undisturbed buffer. The alternative option would not provide a path to the amenitized lake, and it also pulls that boat rack further away from the lake. The proposed disturbance has been carefully designed to minimize environmental impacts while allowing for the creation of valuable recreational amenity. The inclusion of a walking path and canoe rack will enhance the quality of life for future residents and create an active, engaging connection with the natural surroundings, which are a central feature to this development. Without approval of this variance, the amenitization of the lake would not be feasible, and the overall appeal and functionality of the development would be significantly diminished. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time, and I ask that you please approve this variance request. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have any questions for the applicant? Have you applied for the state buffer?
Not
Variance?
yet.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. At this time, this is a public hearing. I will ask if there is anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition or has questions or comments? Please approach the podium, sign in, and direct all your questions to me.
Are you saying in favor of it?
No, I said in opposition or has questions or comments. Yes, ma'am. If you would like to approach the podium, there is a sign-in sheet. Please sign in and state all your questions directly to me.
Okay, I couldn't hear her. I could not hear her very well. Is there going to be a concrete walkway?
Ma'am, if you would just state your questions. If you have any questions, we'll have her come back up after you've asked your questions. This is not an interactive conversation. If you'll ask the questions, we'll have the applicant come back up to provide answers.
Okay.
So the question is there
The
going to be
question is there going to be a concrete walkway?
Okay, do you have any other questions?
Yes. This is not, so you want to take 25, they want to take 25 feet of the encroachment to encroach 25 feet?
No, that's not exactly, if somebody could go back. As I stated in the previous case, any stream buffer in this lake is considered
Here
a
it is.
stream buffer, because it is a water of the state of Georgia. We have a 25-foot impervious setback. If you could go back to the one where it had the exact square footages they're asking for. In the presentation, yeah, just go back a couple pages. The numbers were on further back.
I live in Brightwater subdivision, and when the
That
hurricane,
one, that one. Go back.
when the hurricane came, our lake was the color of Georgia clay. It's never, we had to hire a engineer to come out. And then yesterday's rain again, our lake was totally not clear again. And all of this, that's what I'm asking, is how much of this encroachment are we gonna lose in order that we don't get the absorption of the rain and runoff? I don't know if any of you have gone out there and looked at this subdivision they're putting in. They have dug it so deep that it's causing so much trouble for our lake. So that's why I was asking, are they going to be putting in concrete? What are they doing? So we need every square inch of absorption. So, and did they do another environmental study? What it's going to cause to our lake? Because we've got a big silt problem now caused. And there's a few other things I want to ask, but it's not pertaining to this encroachment that they're going to. The thing I was going to ask.
Well, as I stated at the beginning, today we are really only here to discuss
Okay.
the encroachment on the lake within their
Basically,
project.
Did they do another environmental study?
Okay. We will have the applicant come back up. Let me see if there's anybody else in the audience who has any questions, comments, or concerns. Is there anyone else in the audience who has any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, if the applicant could come back up and respond to some of these questions, and I'll remind you, is the walkway going to be concrete?
It will not be concrete. It's I say slate chip.
Do you want to go back to the map?
Yeah.
Mark?
Well, I've got it on here.
Okay,
I think
somebody-
it's slate chip, so it's like rock chips.
Yeah.
And mulch, there's two. In the impervious, I think we said it was slate chips for the seating area, and then the path will be mulch.
Okay, and if you would like to review how much encroachment and what exactly you're proposing to do, because that's why we left this page up.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so basically around the entire perimeter of the lake, there's a 25-foot buffer, undisturbed buffer, and then there's a 25-foot impervious buffer. So in the impervious buffer, you can do some minor earthwork, but you can't put like a street or a sidewalk or a house. So basically, we're requesting to encroach both of those for the slate chip seating area and the mulch path, and then the canoe rack. So just amenities, they'll be pervious, so it shouldn't impact in any way lakes off-site. this is designed, and it'll be, reviewed by the county engineer and by our engineers, to make sure that it's meeting all of the county requirements as far as runoff reduction and any impact. So I don't believe there was an additional environmental study, but I don't think that that's also something that would be necessary. They work with the county to make sure that all of the requirements, as far as like sedimentation, erosion control, all that are met or exceeded. So it won't, once it's completed, nothing should be coming out of that lake onto another property. Does that answer all the questions?
Does anybody have any questions? I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is the conclusion of the public comment portion of this. If there are no other questions by members of the Development Waiver Review Committee, I would ask if anyone has a motion on this request. Middle.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Mr. Wooten, do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second from Mr. Coyle. Does anyone have any questions or comments before we vote? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving this request signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? There are none. The request has been approved unanimously. That is our last item of business today. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned.